Louis.
Sweet.
Mate,
Okay.
thanks for coming on.
No worries, mate. Good. Thanks for having me.
I'm excited. As we were saying just before, we always are crossing paths in the hallway, or one of us is throwing dumbbells and barbells around and the other's resting. And so it is hard to get
100%.
the opportunity to sit down and have a yarn.
Yeah, definitely. It's hard to sit down and have a yarn with anyone at
Mate,
functioning well sometimes.
because we're such high performers. That's
Mate,
the way I look at it. It's just
the benchmark.
Yeah, exactly. We are being the benchmark, but it's just sometimes I feel like rude because it's like, and you do it so frequently. Like, fuck, I need to like catch up for a coffee or something.
And it's just like a nod of acknowledgement, like, yep.
Yeah, we know what you're doing.
Hey, yep.
But it's also like as well, you go there to work, and then you've got you're a new dad and you're married and all of those sorts of things. So you have all these other commitments and a whole nother life going on outside. So it's also like you got to prioritize your time.
Yeah.
So
It's all happening, mate. It is all happening.
Have you been going anyway?
Good. Yeah. Like I've been in that full-time role now for 5 months.
Yeah.
And that was a big change. Yeah, it is. It's pretty cool to be a part of a business that runs the way that it does. Like everything has a system and a way of doing things. It's not just left up to guessing. And that's been refreshing.
Yeah.
And definitely a step forwards in my career.
Has it been hard to get your head around?
Parts of it, yeah.
Yeah.
It's been, the first couple of months were very like learning and like asking lots of questions, and I sort of go, I can figure that out myself.
Yep.
And so figuring out that I didn't know how to figure it out by myself and just to ask questions was probably my biggest, I guess almost a barrier for me to learn, but I got through that pretty quick, and thankfully the team that I've got around me, they're pretty like, hey, do you need help with anything? Do you have questions? And it's like, oh yeah, I've got 1 million. Here, please help. But a lot of the role also is still getting to coach and program and doing the things I love. So it's that. So I get to do the fun stuff, and then it's just like, okay, I'll sink my teeth into learning how to do all the back end admin side of things.
How has it been? Because you came from like PTing and performance coaching to then running like a whole program and stuff.
Yeah.
And then also you and I used to throw tin down in CrossFit. So there's a specific mentality that goes with CrossFit, I feel. Yeah. As opposed to now having Metcon and HitCon. Hit just hit. One. Yeah, just hit.
Yeah, look, it's interesting, and like I've run classes at my old, like at Snap, at my old gym. I ran very similar to what we run in the Metcon and Hit. So that was a no-brainer to be able to step in. There was obviously bits of adjustment that had to be made based on space and people and equipment. I went from coaching 16 people at once to 32 people at once 3 times a morning, and it's just it's a bit mayhem some days. And I was a fish out of water on my first day. I got rattled big time.
Just numbers going everywhere.
Yeah, and people walked out of the room going, "Who is this bloke?" Like, because
how did you deal with that then?
Back to the drawing board.
Yep.
And like sat down with JP and we went, okay, I thought I kind of knew what I was doing, but it was like, okay, there's a bigger adjustment than I thought was going to have to be adjusted to.
Cool how every problem gives you an opportunity for growth if you choose to look at it and not just go, oh, fuck this, it's not for me.
Nah, it was big learnings from legit day one.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, okay.
How'd the opportunity come about for you? Were you looking for that next career progression or something new, or did it just opportunity fall in your lap?
I was looking for other work at the start of this year.
Yep.
So Elle had come along. She was, when she born, October. So she was like 4 or 5 months.
Mate, you're 1 year, right?
She turned 1 last week.
Oh, how special.
Yeah, very special.
Far out.
So my wife is also an EP who has, clients that she sees and whatever. So both of us having unsteady income was some weeks was a bit all over the place. And I'd been at Snap for 8 years and was looking for ways out, but probably just looking for other PT work. And then just by chance, Function Well called up and said, hey, we've got a position here if you want it, running our group fitness program. And I was like, sure, let's do it.
Sick.
It's full-time work. It's paid holidays. It's the security that I didn't know I was looking for until it found me, and had a couple of chats with Darren and Mick and the management team, and
it's been the best thing ever.
Best thing ever. It was, a big step forward. It's a big challenge, but lots to learn, and it helped me go, okay, there's more out there.
Yep. How'd you get into coaching originally?
I started at uni, so I sort of started training in the gym like when I was like 21. I was pretty skinny, like nothing of me. Played soccer, and I was like, okay, I need to get stronger because.
So soccer's your background?
Soccer's my background. Played soccer for 22 years straight. From 5 years old to 27.
Wow.
And then, so yeah, like I'd moved down from Gladstone, had all these aspirations of being in football and all this stuff, came down to Brisbane where everything is like incredibly competitive and realised that I was a very small fish in a very, very big pond.
Yep.
And I was like, okay, played one season. Okay, I need to get stronger. Went to the gym. So, and like everyone does, you develop that interest and like, oh, this is pretty cool. And then thought I'd go study it, went to uni, studied exercise science, and then got the shits for studying, and I was failing classes. So I thought, like okay, all of the guys that I was at uni with had already done their certificates and were already working as PTs, and then they were doing their, X science, X phys, all this stuff. I said, all right, scrap uni. It's not going the way I needed it to. Go to TAFE, get your certifications, and then reassess uni down the track. So I went to TAFE and never looked back. I hit up Snap Fitness in the city, God, whatever year it was, 2013 or something, and said, hey, looking for just to do work experience. And I was a very naive little boy then. I was 23 and I thought I was like, yeah, like everyone look at me, like I'm working in the city. Yeah. I'm, a personal trainer. Yeah, what a baller. Yeah. So I was like, and then I stayed with the same franchisee, but I moved gyms about a year and a half in out to Everton Park. And then I was there for 6.5 years and
loved it.
Built a business and it was fun. It was good.
I remember when did I hit up Snap? I think when I first did my PT cert and I've come out and I went to Max, which was all like business, and they blow your fucking head up and you realize it's actually a lot harder than they tell you it is, and into Snap and they're like, yeah, you have to do a 12-month contract. And I was like, I don't know if I can commit to that. What if I'm not good at this? And so I bailed on that and went to a different gym. But a couple of my mates own Snaps now, which is it's a good franchise.
It's like they have for what they are. Yep. They've got good systems directed at where they are in the market. Right? Yep. Like so, and it kind of got to the point where I went, I would love to do more with what we have at this Snap, but Snap isn't going to go anywhere further than what it is. So for the time it was like I worked with great people, and it just come the time where I was like, I've got this opportunity now to go to a brand that I've been a member of for 4 years. Yep. And I know how, I sort of have an idea, and I know how they run things, and it's very, let's do the shit properly. We're a fitness facility, we're a health facility, everything runs the same. And I had actually considered applying as PT, and I went, I don't know if I'm the same, like, I don't know if I have the same methods as all the coaches at Function Well, and sort of went, oh, maybe I'm a bit different to that, and maybe it's not for me. But now that I am one, I'm like, oh, we're the same. I can do this. And I think I just thought...
Was it like self-doubt or...?
A little bit, yeah. Like I've definitely had like imposter syndrome, like, levels of imposter syndrome where it's like, oh, I'm not cut out for that. That's not... I don't think I'll be able to run a business there. It's too competitive. They all know more than I do, sort of thing. And because it was comfortable at Snap. I was one of 2 PTs there.
Why do you think we'll stick with the comfortable stuff?
Because it's comfortable.
I was like, that was the worst question ever.
But it is. It's like, why would I go and do something else that might be testing when I know that I can just go home and sleep well at night and not stress about the thing that I just wake up for and is comfortable the next day, and I just roll in and like, I was at there for 6.5 years and it was comfortable as hell. And
it becomes, have you found like, now that you've got a family, the decisions are a lot more challenging to make with risk, and there's more people involved in it?
And like, like Beck and I had a big conversation. I was like, hey, like I've just got this phone call about this job. It's going to mean that I'm not home in the middle of the day, because we had the same schedules. We'd go to work in the morning, come home in the middle of the day, we can go train, we can do whatever we want. And then obviously when Elle came along, it was like, okay, I can be home at 9:30, 10 a.m, take Elle off her hands, we have a play for a couple of hours, go to the gym, do all the things we need to do. I'd go back to work in the afternoon. I said, look, I'm going to be out of the house now from 5 a.m. until, 2, maybe 3 some days. So that's a big ask on her. Yep. And it was like, so we had that conversation of like, is this going to be all right? Like, what's the sacrifice?
How did you set that conversation up? Because you're speaking about it like it's so easy, and but like so many people struggle to communicate well with their partner and make sure that whatever decisions they're making for their career or vice versa is going to work for the family as a whole.
Yeah. I think it was just, like, it had to be done. As soon as I got the phone call, I messaged her and I said, I've just been offered a job, like full time. Yeah. And she was like, oh, well, like that's so exciting. So proud of you. Yeah. All this stuff. And it was like, okay, now we need to talk about this properly. Like the excitement, we got past the excitement of it. And then it was like, okay, logistically, what does this look like? Okay. And like I thankfully I was able to sort of set my hours with Functional. I said, look, I need to be home of an evening because Beck goes to work, and that's I need to go home and look after Elle so she can actually go to work without a child.
Yes.
For at least half of her sessions of the day. So yeah, it was a big ask on her, and because she gave birth to a child, like she's been through the ringer.
Yeah,
it's a fair task. So it's already taxing on her, especially in the first year. Like everything's on the mum. Elle doesn't want to come to me some days. I want mum. If I'm feeling sick, I want mum. And so everything's on her, and it's like, okay, this is going to be more on you now. And then we sort of said to each other when we first got together, it was like, and especially when we were pregnant, when Elle came on, it was like, I read a book or listened to something, and it was like, make sure you check in with your partner. Yeah. If it's not every day, it's every second day.
Yep.
And check how they're going. And so that becomes a thing that we just do. Hey, how you going?
Yep.
Is everything all good? Can I help with anything? She does it to me. If I'm wrecked, if I'm stressed, hey, what can I do to help?
It's awesome that it works two ways, because we hear a lot about postnatal depression and things like that. Time. A lot of men, or not a lot of men, but a couple of blokes that are my mates who've had kids, there's not much conversation around how it impacts the bloke. And obviously we're not the ones giving birth and going through it's mind-blowing what women do. Like absolutely mind-blowing. But there's never any conversation for blokes. And I think that maybe comes from we don't want to take away from or support our partners and what they've gone through.
Yeah, I also think it's the man is just supposed to be tough and just go to work and just do all the stuff and you just deal with it. And I listened to a book. I can't remember the author, but it was magic by an Australian guy, and he
Steve Biddulph. Is it the Raising Boys or something like that? He's an Australian psych. He's a phenomenal dude.
I've heard of him, but it was a different guy. He had actually written this book like 25 years ago, and he updated it. I'll find it. And it was like, you have to look after yourself as well as a dad. Like, this is hard on the mother.
Yep.
But at a certain point, you still need to be selfish and look after your own mental health, because you can very quickly, as a dad, everything becomes, and it does straight away, everything is either, like with me, it's for Beck or it's for Elle.
Yep.
And then it's like, oh, what have I done for myself this week? And that's my training I do that
thing.
For me.
Yep.
And thankfully, Beck and I both come from athletic backgrounds. She understands that training is a big part. And so she goes, yep, like you need to go train. You need to go and do that, because
get out.
Yeah. Well, like otherwise I'm no good to her or Elle if my mental health and my physical health is no good.
Yep.
So we had that conversation pretty early on as well. It's like, hey, like you need to make sure you look after yourself, and I need to make sure I look after myself, and then we need to look after each other.
That's awesome.
So yeah, we've been friends for a long time before we actually got together. So there's a certain level of respect, and it was like, all right, well, if we're going to do this, we'll do it properly. And there's no miscommunications and you thinking that it's going to be one thing and me thinking it's going to be another thing, and then we end up hating each other's guts, and because it's stressful.
Yeah. Like
we got a good kid, and we had a very excellent pregnancy, real short labour, no issues whatsoever, and it is stressful shit.
What's some of the main stresses that you've experienced?
It just be like, without even trying, there can be disconnects. You don't even feel like you see each other. It's legit. Some afternoons I get home, we have a half-hour changeover, she goes to work. That's what worries me, because Amy and I are in that point where you start talking about kids and everything like that, and I'm like, man, you got to really be switched on to work at it, because even though it's not intentional that you might not spend the time together, it's like your focus is your child, and then also, as you said, it's Beck and Elle. For me, it would be Amy and whoever. Yeah.
But the time into the relationship sort of fades away.
And it can get away from you quickly, right? Like, there's nights where one of us has fallen asleep in the rocking chair, like putting her to sleep, and you're like, oh, okay, well, I'm going to go to bed. And you're like, are you coming to bed?
Yeah.
And then I'm up 4 o'clock in the morning, out, see you later, gone. And so, there's definitely weeks where we go, I feel like I haven't seen you. Like it's been a week, like we live together, and I'm like, I miss you. And she's like, I miss you. And I'm like, all right, well, Saturday, let's make sure we do something.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Just
so you do
put
prioritize that
and
time.
It doesn't even have to be anything, but it's still something. It's like, all right, put phones away. Just go down in the yard and play with the dog and Elle, and just have a chill out for a couple of hours and just do things that we like to do, or like, okay, we're going to go to the coast.
Yep.
And we both are, probably Beck more so than me. She probably won't want me saying this, but she doesn't like asking for help.
Yep.
And so I'm like, why don't we just ask one of our friends? Everyone offers, oh, we'll babysit for you, but we never ask. And so it's like, it took a while to go, hey, can you come and babysit Elle while we go train together? or while we go do this. And so it's getting into a rhythm now, but like some days if Elle's having a bad day, no way in the world. It's like, all right, well, we've got to look after her.
Yep.
And so you've got to, it is a job that has to be continued to be worked at more than you kind of want and more than you think. Because even when it's like going well, it's like, it's still taxing. Like Elle takes attention constantly. It's like, hey, oh, what's she doing? Oh, what's she doing? We'll be in the middle of a conversation. Oh, I gotta go. And you come back and you go, what were we talking about? I don't know. Oh, well, anyway, you've got to put her to bed, or I'm putting her to bed, or whatever. And so
that's what I noticed. We went camping a couple of weeks ago, and all my mates have kids. And normally you just sit down, like, you know, you just get blind or whatever, and no conversation would be interrupted. But now there's kids going everywhere. You're like, don't go near the fire, or they're bloody about to eat a rock or something. You're just like non-stop on the go. And yeah, as you said, the conversation's like, can't remember what I was saying.
Yeah, don't worry about it. Anyway, is she okay? Yeah, good.
It's insanely wild. You were saying one thing that you said, that I loved was that you were able to just go, oh, I miss you. Let's spend some time together. I know from a lot of the blokes that I've worked with, even in my own experience, there's moments where if I feel like I'm not getting the time, and maybe I do miss Amy, for example, I'll withdraw even more and like shut down. How did you develop the ability to just go, fuck, I'm going to communicate? Because your communication, from what you've been saying, is like world class.
I think that comes from like past relationships.
Yep.
So like my first marriage was, at the time I thought, oh, this is great.
Yep.
Ended very, very abruptly.
Yep.
And that was like start of COVID.
Yep.
So I had a bit of time by myself to sort of dig within and go, okay, what can I work on in myself to make sure that it's better, and the communication, and I guess was probably a big one. And like, you know, Beck and I said from when we first started seeing each other, I was like, I just want us to communicate all the time. Just whatever it is. Doesn't have to be like constant contact, but like if things are wrong, talk about it. None of this like, hey, what's wrong? Oh, nothing. Okay, like something's up. So tell me right now so we can deal with it and move on, because we're both busy. We now have a child. We don't want to spend our time arguing over little stuff when we've got other bigger important things to worry about. So that was just I don't know. I don't even know what caused it, but listen to some books and listen to some podcasts about, you know, being a better person. Sounds
like you do a shitload of learning though as well.
Yeah, I went like, at the moment, it's kind of hard at the moment because it's
busy,
But while I had the time, I definitely did. It was, you know, reading books by like James Clear, like habit stuff and how to like, even just having conversations with people and how to, even with the parenting, like, okay, as a father, like, this is your role now. This is what's going to happen. Like, she's going to need your help.
Yep.
If she asks for something, you just do it. Like,
yes, sir.
Don't go, hey, I've got something better to do. Like,
the footy's on. Go ahead.
Yeah, legit. So it was like, okay. And like, you've got 9 months to prepare. It's like, okay. So in the time that Beck was pregnant, we both studied our kind of separate ends of it.
Yeah.
It was like Beck read everything on what childbirth might be like, how to prevent tearing, how to prevent ab displacement, how to prevent all this stuff. And I listened to books on what it's going to be like.
Did you, was it anything like what the book said, or was it just like fucking absolute whirlwind?
Yeah, it is a bit like the book said.
Yeah.
But it was like, you take the positives from it. And even like, there was bits like, make sure you go and hang out with your mates still and make sure you do this and that. It's like, that probably doesn't happen as much as it could do.
Yep.
But our friends are the same friendship group. So we kind of go, hey, like, everyone like come around. We're the only ones with kids.
Yep.
And so it's like, well, you got to come to us.
Yeah.
Because it's way less effort for you guys to come here than it is for us to go to you. So, but like, I'm also not a big drinker anymore. So it's kind of like, all right, well, let's go get a coffee or just come around. Let's go do a workout. So we catch up with everyone like from time to time, but like the weeks get away pretty quick, man.
Oh, mate, it's the end of the year already. It's flying.
Yeah, disappears. So.
What was it like watching your wife go through the process of growing a baby or growing Elle and go through that whole process? Was it pretty special?
Yeah, it's pretty incredible. And like, so we didn't find out until obviously she came into the world, whether it was boy or girl, and like, she's such a trooper, like just tough.
Yep.
And I had to tell her she was in labor.
What?
She's having contractions, and I was like, you're having contractions right now. She's like, no, I think it's just like Braxton Hicks. It's like 10:30 at night.
And you're like, no.
Wailing in pain. And I was like, I'm pretty sure.
She must be so strong.
She was lined up to go to work the next morning. We both had clients ready to go. She worked up until, and so like at 2:30 in the morning when we went into hospital when she was in active labour, and the nurse, we were on the phone and she said, look, come in, I'll meet you at the hospital, we'll get this show on the road. Quick email to the clients.
You need to
hey guys,
your clients.
We're done. See you in 18 weeks.
Far out.
So yeah, we were in there, and then 5:34 a.m. Wow. So you're right. Yeah, 3 hour. It was a quick one. It felt like forever.
Yep.
And then I've spoken to people like my sister and stuff, and they're like, "Oh yeah, I had a 36-hour labour." I'm like, "Oh, I'm not complaining then." It was more the fact that we didn't get to sleep. So like, usually we go to bed at like 9 o'clock.
Yep.
And then it was like, she's like, "Oh, having contractions and stuff and in pain." I'm like, "Are you okay?" She's like, "Yeah, I'm fine." And I'm like, "All right, well, I'm gonna go back to sleep because I got to be up for clients in the morning." Like,
yeah.
And then, yeah, it got pretty bad, and I was like, pull the TENS machine out and call the nurse, and she went, "Yep, you're in. Thingo, give me a call in a couple of hours when it gets really bad." So we had you have like the timer on, and we had like the apps of like time the contractions and all the stuff, and
there is so much stuff that goes on that I have no idea about.
And we were, oh yeah, mate, it's nuts. We were over prepared.
That's good.
It was good. So like I said, we had 9 months where we essentially studied what we should have, what it's going to be like to be parents. Half the shit we didn't use, but we were prepared.
Yeah.
We were prepared. You prepare for the worst and then like obviously hope for the best. And so we had a pretty good run, thankfully, and very grateful because some of the stuff you hear about, like people that we know had kids at the same time and just complete opposite ends of the spectrum. And fit people as well. Like Beck's obviously, fit.
Yeah.
And girls that she had done CrossFit with had kids roughly at the same time, and you'd assume they're in the similar condition, and they're like, "Oh yeah, I was had an emergency C-section because I was in labour for 13 hours and it wasn't coming," and so like mental.
Yeah.
So it's very eye-opening, but it's like nothing else. Like nothing compares.
Yeah.
Obviously.
Man, I am just blown away by what women go through.
It's nuts. And so like, I was like, I'll be there in the delivery room with you. And I was exhausted and I wasn't pushing.
I always joke to Amy, like, I'm like, I can't be in there because if I see blood, I'm just like, done.
Nah, see, I was the same. I thought the same thing, but you figure it out.
I hope so, because otherwise I'll be cleaning me up off the floor.
I made sure I was like, I'm a bit the same. So I was like, I'll just stay out of the road where I'm not in eyesight of things going wrong.
Yep.
There was one point I nearly passed out. We were like on like a spa in hot air, and I was claustrophobic, and I was like, I just need to go and sit over there for a second. And the nurse is like, over there, we don't need you falling in the water, because they told us stories about, because we were at the RBH and in the room was like, hey, you go to bed and then you got a spa bath and you can choose sort of where you want your big private suite essentially. And the nurse was like, do you have any things passing out? I was like, yeah, kind of. She was like, okay, well, we'll keep you away from the bath. They had someone like the dad like there supporting and then pass out in the water while his wife's giving birth. Like just face first.
Imagine like seeing the CCTV footage of that.
I was like, nope, that is
I don't want to be that guy.
So you're just there, and like when you're witnessing what your partner or your wife goes through, feeling a little bit faint is nothing. You just stick it out. You're just there, and it was like I'm telling her to breathe, and I'm pushing her through it, like just helping, and it was just like, just squeeze me as hard as you need to.
What was that moment when you first saw Elle? What was that like for you?
It's pretty hard to describe because you're like, after all that, it's now here. Yep. And you're a parent right now.
Yeah, there's no like timeouts.
It was like, all right, good job, mum. Okay, she's on the boob right now.
Fuck, it becomes real.
Not even a chance to think. And like, obviously, 3 hours of labour isn't a long time, but it's still a long time to be physically exerting yourself. And so she's exhausted, and they're like, all right, just stop holding the bed. We'll just tidy you up. And then there's your child. It's full on. Like, it obviously sounds pretty blunt, but that's kind of how it is. And then it's like, after a little while, they go, okay, Dad, your turn. Take your shirt off. Your turn. Yeah. Because it's got to be skin-to-skin contact straight away. We didn't even think to like find out what the sex was. Like, it came out and she's like, oh, you got to like, here it is. Go. And then she was like, oh, do you know the gender? And we were like, no. She's like, oh, you've had a little girl. Oh, cool.
Awesome.
We were so just delirious. Like, both of us just wanted to go to sleep. It was like, all right.
And
you're in it now.
Far out. That's wild.
Mental. So, yeah, we didn't sleep. Obviously, like, we were trying to go to bed and then contractions happened. So we were all up all through the night. Then it was like, okay, you're on. And so we got a chance to have like a 20-minute nap. They take the baby away to do some tests and do whatever else. But it's like, you just cooked. Absolutely cooked. I don't know how people go longer than that.
Yep. That is mental.
It was nuts. But I'm like, okay, well, we're ready to do it again. So,
are you going to go again?
Yeah, we're starting trying pretty soon.
Oh, that's awesome. That's exciting.
Now that she's one, we're like, all right, we'll have them close together. We'll wait a year.
Yep. They'll be buddies.
Again. Yeah.
So I can't believe it's already 1 year. That has flown.
And I go, what's happened in that year?
How has your perspective on life changed? Like that's like pre-child and you know, you and I trained to absolute bucket load back in the day with CrossFit and stuff. As opposed to now, like, do you still train a shitload, or what's most important to you, and how's your whole life look now?
It's more just efficiency. So it's like, I don't want to be out of the house any longer than I have to, because I actually want to get home and spend time with my family. Like, guys joke about like, oh, I need to get away from the missus. It's like, I actually want to go home. So it's like, thankfully I follow a program that is written by Dad and Dad Hours. Swanee's, you know, onto some magic there. And it's little bits that are 20 minutes here, 20 minutes there. And so if I get a 20-minute workout in, great. If I get to train for an hour, sweet. But no more than that. I pretty much set my clock and go, right.
You still get results, right?
I still feel fit.
Mate, you're jacked. Honestly, you're the shred lord.
Like I did like a body scan the other day, and I was like 12.5% body fat. And I was like, okay, like still happening. Like the eating, you just adjust the eating a little bit, but like it's more that when I'm training, it's not just getting through stuff. It's like, all right, this is my one chance to do something today, and do it with purpose and do it with intent and get something out of it. Don't leave going, gee, I wish I had done more. Or wish I had worked harder.
How do you get ready for that then? Because a lot of people do train without intent, but for you, how do you sort of get yourself in the zone for that?
I do cherry pick a bit. It's like, all right, you know, how have I slept? How tired am I? How have I eaten today? Am I lifting heavy weights, or am I just doing really simple conditioning pieces? So like, if I've had a good night's sleep and I've eaten and I'm fueled, I'm like, all right,
let's go.
We're lifting today, and we're going to hit a pretty hard conditioning piece today. Get that work done in an hour, and then if I get some time for accessories, I'll do some accessories. But if I feel pretty gassed, I'm like, we're just running today. Or we're just biking. And some days I'm like, okay, just get to 8, just do this at 80%. Just do something to tick that box of the day and go, cool, you've worked out. Now go home and be a dad.
Was that frustrating at the beginning? Like, because
as bad as it sounds,
it's true.
You know, I come from, used to get to train for like 1.5 hours, 2 hours a day, be in the gym, just like cruising around, talk shit, you know, and you're hanging out with your mates. And now I'm like, I have days where I train with my friends, and I'm like, all right, well, you keep doing that. I've got to go. I'm done. We've done an hour. We've lifted. We've done some conditioning.
See ya.
I'm gone. And it took a while of adjusting to convince myself that like it's okay to just train that amount. And it was a process, and there were certainly days where it was like, I want to do more, because I see my friends, they still get to train. They're doing A, B, C, D, E pieces, and I'm going, I'm doing A and half a B today. So it's, and then I'm like, all right, I'm out of here, and they're like, oh, we're going to do another conditioning piece. I'm like, oh, I want to do that, and then you have a reality check with yourself, and you go, you don't need to do that.
Yes,
you worked hard, you had your 45 minutes, make the most of it, or you got to wait till tomorrow to do it again.
Such an important way to look at it, because people either go all in or all out, whereas you're still finding the balance to, you know, have a demanding role at work, be a dad, be a husband, train with your buddies, and make it all work, rather than most people are like, I don't have an hour, I can't train. It's like, well,
you got time.
Louis fucking living proof.
There's time, and like I got a lot of people could vouch for this. The amount of times I've said to people, I don't know how people train at 5 a.m. Like all my 5 a.m. crew at Snap, I'd be like, I don't know how you guys do this early in the morning. I now find myself at 4:30 in the morning training before the classes start, just to get a workout in. Like I'll go over to the Brecky Creek gym and run.
Why is it so important to you to get it done?
It's just it sets me up, and it's like, okay, I know I've done that. I've worked out. I've got myself a little bit further towards, you know, whether it's the next competition or just I mean, it just feels good. You know, like you do a workout and you go, okay, I feel better now. I've done that.
Yeah, I love it.
I've ticked off. So whether it's, you know, some days it's just, okay, I'll just go run for half an hour. Okay, I've ticked that box. I've worked out. I feel good. I feel ready to go for the day. I'm not tired and frustrated. It's clarity. I'm not thinking about work when I'm training. It's just like, go get stuck in, do it. And like, I'm never going to be the best athlete in the world, but I still keep myself competitive with guys that are pushing like the upper echelons of like CrossFit and stuff like that. So
yeah, it's always good to strive, and like, because you want to be like, I want to be like 70, 80 and still be able to squat, run, jump, do all of those things.
Yeah. I actually heard a thing on a podcast the other week. Who was I listening to? Someone. I'm no good. Remember, I just listened to stuff, but it was like, it was one of Andrew Huberman's.
He's incredible, hey.
And he was like talking to this guy they deal with elderly patients, and it's like essentially your last 10 years of life, and I'll remember the name of that shortly, but it's like they work on this. Okay, what do you want your last 10 years of life to look like? What are you doing now to get yourself there? And that resonated pretty quick. I was like, okay, so if you're not looking after yourself now, or what are you doing now to make sure that when you're 80, you're operational?
Yep.
And I was like, oof. I was like,
slaying beers every night's not going to help.
That's tough to hear. Like, even as a 30-year-old, like it makes mortality pretty real and not that far away, right? So you're like, oh, okay, am I just burying myself in training for the sake of burying myself in training, or is there a wellness aspect to it and a longevity aspect to it? So that's what I take that into account as well. It's like, if I'm not feeling good, I now don't put the pressure on myself to train. It might just be go have a sauna.
Yeah, exactly.
Go stretch, go for a walk. Bare minimum, go for a walk.
Yep. It's why I have these shirts, do it for tomorrow, because it's always like everything you do today, you should be thinking about tomorrow, and even that last 10 years. Like,
yeah, when I heard that, I was like, that's an eye opener.
And you're not even guaranteed that. That's if life goes to plan and you think you're going to live to 80, etc. Yeah. It's like we don't. That's not guaranteed. Fuck. It's. But it's
a bit grim, but it's pretty true.
But like, you need to think about your mortality, because it's like, do I train an extra hour, or do I go spend time with my wife and family?
Yeah, and that's the exact reason, right? Like and that's why I go train early now. Some days I'm like, okay, well, if I've got time, I can train now so that I can finish work earlier and go straight home. I'm not saying, oh, hey, like I'm just going to train for an hour now while you've been at home for 9 hours with a child that's running around the house, and then we'll go for a walk later, or. And I make sure that if Beck says, hey, I want to go train, I'm like, all right, well, I won't train.
Yep.
So you can go train. Because I work at a gym now. So it's like, all right, well, I can just go downstairs.
Yeah. You can do farmers carries up and down the hallway.
Just jump in a CrossFit class, or I jump in a HIIT class and Metcon or whatever. So whereas she's got to travel to the gym and come in and train and bring Elle with her. So it's never just, we'll just go in and train like we used to. It's like, okay, we've got to get her ready. Is she sleeping when she needs to feed? All the stuff.
Yeah. There was one, actually, you put up a post after the turf games. I wanted to ask you about it, where I did write the quote. I'm quoting you. Being a parent is everything, but it doesn't have to be the only thing. I remember when I read that, there was a photo of you and your family after the turf games, which is a functional fitness event. And I was like, that is one of the greatest things I've read, because you guys are still, as a family, people put restrictions on themselves when they become a family. It's like, no, we're in this box now. We can only do this, this, and this. But you guys are still living your life as if you were, I don't want to say as if you were 18 or 20. It's like, because that's putting in another, but it's like you're giving yourself the freedom to live how you guys want to live.
Yeah, and like that's a conversation we had at the start as well. It was like, all right, well, when we are parents, we don't want to just be parents.
Yep.
We still want to, like, none of our friends have kids. So it's like, we don't want them to be like, oh, Lewis and Beck are just parents now. They don't do anything.
Yep.
So it's like, all right, well, okay, we'll come to you. We'll still go for a beer. Like, occasionally we'll just go to the bar, bring her with us.
Yep.
But you just figure it out, because you see and hear of people that have kids, and then everything stops.
Yep.
Your kid then rules your life, and she still does to a certain degree. But we're also very conscious of, hey, let's make sure we're doing stuff for us.
Yep.
Whether it's like when we were at turf games, I hit up mum and dad. I was like, hey, I'm going to need you to babysit. And it took a bit of convincing to get back to do it. And I knew that there was still competitiveness in her.
Yeah.
But she was like, yeah, but the stress of it. And I was like, yeah.
Yep.
But this is good for you and good for us. And it's something that we have, like, we met through CrossFit. So it's like, this is something that we can do together. We just need to be organised. And that's, I think, the organised is the big part of it, where some people, and I'm not saying I'm professional at parenting, like by no means at all.
Next week you got a book out.
My new ebook, 1 year of parenting, and I know everything. But it was like, you have a choice. You either make the effort to make it work and you get yourself organised, and this is all the things we need to have done, or you go in the too hard basket.
Yep.
And from what I've heard and what I've read, lots of people go too hard basket. We're just not doing that. And it's not till you hear it from parents who are now parents of teenagers that go, I wish I had done more when my kids were young, because I let them rule my life. And now that I'm 50, I've lost contact with friends, and I don't do the things that I love, and I don't train, and I don't do this, and I put on weight, and I did this and that.
Yeah, I can't do it anymore.
Yeah, I've sort of been visible of, like, you see other parents and go, okay, I just want to make sure I don't end up like that.
Yep.
Well, not that people are bad parents, but like, you see the dad bod is like, I don't want to get fat.
Me either. Fuck no.
But it's like, you don't have to.
Legitimately.
It's simple. It's just organising and like communication and organised and
priorities.
And so Turf Games was a.
And how did Beck feel after doing the comp?
Good. She's like, I'm glad we did that. Like, it was still stressful. Like, it was raining, and then like you're organising, mum and dad, hey, we need you to be here now, and then we're going to leave, and then you're going to bring Elle, and then we'll meet you here, and then, okay, she needs a feed, and she needs this and this and this. So there's no switching off after events. It's like, okay, you come off the competition floor exhausted, and it's like, oh, good. Elle wants mum and dad. Because as soon as she saw us, it was
no rest for you. It
was
like,
I want my parents.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, well, come here. My arms are cooked, but sure, like, we'll have a play.
Make that happen.
It was tough, but at the same time, afterwards, Beck was like, oh, if they did like another like team of 4 or like pairs competition, I'd probably do it. Like, obviously not for another year now if we have another baby, but I knew that there was still a part of her that wanted to feel that competition again, because for the mum, it gets gone like that. You're a mum. It's so easy to just become just a mum. And not that being a mum is a bad thing. And I had this conversation with my mum. She was like, being a mum's the best. And I said, yeah, it is. I bet it is. But there's also more.
Well, you still have your friends and your interests and hobbies.
And, Beck's got her career.
Yes.
It's not just about, we'll just rely on Lewis's income and I'll stay at home and be a mum now.
Yep.
So, like, she can still be a mum, but be herself as well.
And it provides opportunity for you to be a dad as well, because previous generations, the dad, that's how it was. And you become so disconnected and withdrawn from it. It's like, where's my place in the family?
And I think Ryan Holiday is probably one that I
fucking love him.
His stuff, like, post on like the Daily Dad all the time, and it's like, it's stuff that he says and you go, oh yeah, like, I do want to be involved with my child. Like, I don't want to just wish for I don't want to wish until she's 4. For her to be a 4-year-old so she can talk to me more. I want her to be right where she is right now, so we can communicate in this stage, and then we'll figure out a way to communicate in this stage. And like, in the first 6 months, the dad doesn't do a lot.
Yeah.
And I got told that. It was like, hey, don't expect to be like super involved.
What does it feel like though, watching your daughter always want mum and you're sort of just there? Not that I know.
You're a support act.
Yeah.
And that was pretty, like, you realize that pretty quickly.
Yeah.
It's like, and I got told that, like, my former boss was like, hey, like, just so you know, for 6 months, like, she's not going to care for you. She just wants mum. It's just a connection thing. It's the way babies are. And it was like, okay, well, how do I just make the most of my role in the household now? Because I become the third priority on the list for myself.
Yep.
So it's like, okay, make sure Beck has everything she needs to give Elle everything she needs. And whether that's, if Beck needs to go and have a nap, you go have a sleep, I'll take her for a walk.
Yep.
Or she's not sleeping, all right, put her in the carrier, take the dog for a walk, you get some rest. Do we need it? Or, hey, you clean the house, I cook dinner anyway. So all the little things, you then become the support act to make sure that functions, so that then when you do become more involved, then it's like, okay, I'm here now, and we just do the stuff, and now we can work as a team.
Cool.
But it is hard to go, you just want to be involved, but it's like there was nights where, like, she'd wake up and you go, oh, she's just pushing away.
Really?
Yeah, like, just, and then as soon as she'd go on back, it was like...
Is it like when you're at school and you want to be picked in the touch team and no one's picking you?
And they just go, nah.
Oh, fuck.
It's rough, man. And that doesn't get spoken of.
Yeah.
As far as the father's mental health and that sort of thing.
Like, how do you deal with that? Like, I know you said, like, you find your role and stuff, but, like, do you just talk about it? Yeah. It's
got to be, like, I was like, there'd be days where Beck's like, you're right. And I was like, I just feel like I'm doing nothing. I'm not helping. She doesn't want to communicate with me. She's just with you. And so you do get that, like, that's where there becomes distance.
Yeah.
And so it was like, then it's just communication as well. Like, okay, well, let's make sure we're doing stuff together. And it's just tough, but it's a phase, and you know it's going to end. Well, you hope it's going to end. It does end.
Please.
At like 6 months, once she starts to
realize that you're not going anywhere.
You're not going anywhere, but also, like, if you're there enough, she then goes, oh, hey, you're here all the time.
Yep.
Oh, you want to play with me? All right, let's play. And
that's cool.
But it's like, I feel like, and I've listened to this before, like, parents expect the kid to do what they want to do. And it's like, nope. Even now. Yeah, you're on my time now. And it's not like, okay, well, just come sit up here and we'll watch TV.
Fuck
no way. She's like, I'm going out the back with the dog, and if you're not coming, I'm going down the stairs. And you're like, all right, we're going.
I'm rolling down the stairs,
Legit. So, and especially now that she's walking around, it's like, okay, where are we now? Oh, we're playing blocks? All right, let's play blocks. So you have to take yourself out of being a grown-up and just be a kid with your kid.
That's cool, man.
It is. It's so fun.
You get to go. We take life so seriously, so you get to like get that opportunity.
It's the best way to switch off from work, switch off everything else, because you're just there. And your child thinks you're the best thing in the world because you're showing them all this stuff, and they're like, how good is this? And you're throwing them in the air, and it's like you get to actually play and just bond and like just be there. And like that's, you know, now with technology and that, where everyone's hearing to like, that, that's a challenge. Like I still find myself like, she's playing and you go, oh fuck, like put that away and just be right there. This doesn't repeat again, that moment.
Yeah, you can always refresh your phone.
You can always refresh your phone. You can't refresh
that
moments. Yeah.
I want to bring the mood, or maybe not bring the mood. I want to get a lesson from you, from your last marriage, like the divorce, based around you. Like when you went through that divorce, because I know a lot of people, when they have relationships break down, they take it personally, like, and they turn a lot of the stuff onto themselves. Like, what was that like navigating that for you? Was there, not even self-pity is not the word, like, but how did you view yourself through that process?
I thought that everyone would view me differently.
Yep.
At work, like it was like, oh, like how's everyone? What are people going to think of me?
Yep.
That my marriage has lasted all of 9 months.
Yep.
You know, so but then when you speak to people about it, and like it was through COVID, I was like training people in the park, and they go, oh, how's Jess? And I go, oh, we actually split. And they're like, oh, like I'm so sorry to hear. And like people are supportive. People don't go, oh, something's wrong with you. Like, and so once I realized that people don't care that much about
it's just what you make up.
It's just what you make up in your mind. It was like, okay, well, this doesn't have to be a big deal.
Yep.
People get divorced and split all the time. People get out of relationships all the time. And it was a blessing because now obviously I've got all this stuff going on, and there was never any grievances against my ex. Like she wanted to do her thing. The way I look at it now, we were on very different paths.
Yep.
I definitely took things for granted.
Yep.
And I was definitely pretty selfish in the relationship. It was like, oh, well, what about me kind of thing.
Yep.
And just expect certain things, and it broke down. And so then it was like, it was a real reality check, because I went, well, I don't want to be seen as a bad person.
Yep.
Especially when I have a clientele and I'm in front of lots of people. I'm not just sitting in an office and it's, I contact 5 people. Like you're seeing, 30, 40 people a day that all know and have an idea into your personal life. And it was like, I kind of wanted to go into myself and go, I need to get away from everyone knowing my stuff.
Yep.
But yeah, it was a pretty tough pill to swallow, because you don't expect to be one of them people.
Yep.
Like my parents are still together, so it was like divorce, like no way. You sort your shit out, you figure it out.
But it is, as you said, it's like a blessing, because one, it gives you that reality check to go, okay, well, what can I do better? Maybe I have been selfish. Maybe I need to communicate better. But then the rejection of, I'm not saying you're rejected, but the rejection is that redirection onto where you are truly meant to be. Because I think often, as we spoke about at the very beginning, just with comfort, when we're in a comfortable position, even if it's not like super exciting, or we know we could take risk and achieve more from our life throughout any area, we just sit there until we either get the nudge or something, doesn't go to plan.
And that's pretty well what it was. Like, it was just like, okay, well, we'll just do this
Different
now.
People, yeah.
And then, it was, grew apart and things obviously weren't right, but it was kind of like, okay, well, we'll just ignore it. And, and then one day it was just like, she just went, I don't want to do this anymore. I can't. I'm not happy. And I was like, what are you talking about? We didn't speak about it.
Yep.
Now, with Beck, I was like, we're talking about shit.
Sit down.
We're talking about shit right now. And we figure it out. And like any relationship, like you have arguments and you disagree on stuff, but if you let it carry on, then it's going to carry on.
It just festers.
But it was like, no, let's figure shit out straight away.
Man, your communication now is like, well, I don't know what it was like, but the way you communicate and talk about things and how you've said things on this, I'm like, you're exactly what blokes need to be around, because the communication, honestly, like, you genuinely just want to go home and see your family. So you don't need to make some blokey fucking joke around it. Just, it is what it is.
Yeah. And like another thing I learned was like, you got to figure out how to say no to people.
Yep.
Like people are like, oh, like, do you want to come train later this afternoon? I'm like, nah, man, I'm going home. Like, I've been at work all day. I've already trained. I'm going home. It's Friday afternoon. I'm going home. Like, it's not happening. And then, you know, oh, do you want to come out? We're going to this at 7 o'clock at night. I'm like, nah, it's Elle's bedtime. And I don't feel bad for saying no, but people don't like saying no.
I've got so much respect for you, like, just out of the fact that you prioritize truly what's important and you don't have to beat around the bush around what is important to you to try and impress other people.
And I think it gathers respect then from your friendship group.
Definitely.
So they go,
what's inspiring?
Oh, they know what I know what loose boundaries are. We don't need to ask him to come out. He ain't coming.
Yeah.
And one day I might go, oh, hey, like, you know, we've got a babysitter, Beck and I coming out. And
yeah.
people are like, oh, they're coming out. Yeah. You know, like,
it's like that beer ad, but
yeah. Oh, they're coming out. Like, we'll go to the Functional Christmas party.
Yep.
Beck's like, I was on the phone with her just before. She's like, oh, like, we'll get tickets. We're going to get a babysitter to sleep over. And I'm like, yeah. Like, we still want to do stuff, but week to week, it's like, guys, no. Yep. And like, we go, no Sunday night activities. Like, if our friends come over, it's got to be either like Friday night if I'm not working the next morning, or Saturday afternoon to Saturday night. Because Elle still wakes up at 5:15.
Yep.
And she's like, she's like, I'm ready to go. And so, you know, if I'm up late on a Saturday night, or even drinking, being hungover with a child is no good.
Yeah, that scares me.
It's terrible. So we just go, guys, no. And we got no problem. And you get respect from that. You don't get respect from going, oh, actually, sorry, I've got something on, or just, you know, not showing up. So it was like, you just got to be willing to miss out on stuff.
Yep.
And that was a bit like the similar feeling to like missing out on training so much. You get that FOMO of like, oh, all my friends are out drinking, or they're out felons and they're having
Instagram,
beers. And I'm like, oh, I wish I could do that. But then I'm like, oh, they don't have this.
Yeah, exactly.
They're out there trying to find girlfriends and boyfriends. And I'm like,
life's good.
I'm sweet.
Have everything. It's literally everything you have is there.
Yeah. And so like you sometimes get caught up in what everyone else is doing. And then it's like, oh no, like I've got a happy relationship and I've got a child. I'm like, I don't need to go and seek happiness and fulfillment elsewhere. I still like to sometimes, but I'm pretty content just hanging out home.
Who would be 1 to 2 people who've been really influential on the man that you've become?
I think honestly, Swanee, so like Brandon Swan, who writes the program, he's very open about what it's like being a dad.
Yep.
And
have
training.
To get him on.
And you know, he's former professional athlete. Like, and I've followed his program for a long time, and he was like, you know, we don't have time to train. So you got to find time. And if it means that you got to wake up at 3:30 and you go get your workout done so you can spend more time with your family, that's what you do. And it was like, okay.
No excuses.
That's what we're doing. And it's no excuses. So like, and like, I'm blessed. I get to work at a gym. So I've got the facility right there. If I was to say to someone, oh, I don't really have time to train, they go, don't you work at that place? Yeah. And so, and then like, obviously I take things from my parents as well. Like I see, you know, my dad was like a shift worker and always came to our sporting stuff. Even if he was at work, it was like, all right, I'll jump in the car and I'll just take a half-hour break, come watch you play soccer. Yeah. And still loves watching. He came to turf games and wanted to watch us.
That's awesome.
Exercise. I'm like, Dad, I'm 33. Like, you don't need to come on.
But I'm stoked to hear.
That's his fatherhood. It was, okay, well, I'll be there. I want to watch you do stuff. I want to see my kids succeed. And so it's like, there's that. It's like, okay, well, I want to be there for all the events. What can I be doing to make sure I'm there for all the events? So whether it's what job do I have or what hours am I working? And, you know, I have to miss out on the swimming lesson stuff at the moment. But I'm like, okay, well, but that's just life. You're going to have to miss out on stuff, but let's minimize the things you miss out on. And then, I don't know, I guess you just hear, like, you hear stuff and you see stuff. And like I said, like Ryan Holiday's like stoicism background and how he values, it's like, if you're taking, he said one thing, it was like, if you're asking me to do a meeting at X time, you're taking me away from my family for 1 hour. And that's why that costs money. And I was like, oh,
legitimately.
It's not my time anymore. You're now robbing Beck and Elle of my presence in the house. I've already been out of the house 10 hours and they're going, hey, are you coming home soon? So someone goes, oh, hey, like, can we do PT at 2:30?
No,
not
that's unless you pay me $10,000.
Yeah, pretty much. And so it's
the value of time.
The value of time. And I think, you know, I sort of resort to like athletes and how they approach being parents, because that's how I sort of see a part of myself as an athlete.
Yep.
I might not be the best athlete, but
I'm with you.
I still train like an athlete, and I still want to be athletic. So it's like, okay, well, how do you approach the time? Okay, you train early in the morning. Oh, I'll try that. Or you train late at night. Okay, I'll try that. Like some afternoons we go train at the garage gym. If Beck's like, hey, can you come home instead of training? Yep, sure. All right, I'll come to work with you. After you finish with your clients, I'll squat in the garage. Elle's running around the barbell and doing stuff, but it's like whatever it takes to get something done, you just do that.
Yep.
So that becomes the reality of it. It's just like, do what you have to do to maximize the time with your family so that you don't miss out on stuff. Simple. But it gets complicated, right? Like people go, oh yeah, but my buddies want to go to this. And it's like, oh, do you want to spend the rest of your life with your buddies, or do you want to see your kids?
Well, you got me there.
And it depends where your priorities lie.
Yep.
So I always wanted kids.
Yep.
It's like, now that I've got one, I'm not going to be like, nah.
Yeah.
You're okay. Mum's got you.
I guess that goes back to also you're very clear on what you want, and a lot of people aren't.
Yeah.
Like that's a great position to be in. And obviously you've done work and thought about things to put yourself in that position. People will just go, I don't know. I'm just going to avoid that.
And they kind of just let it get away from, and then it becomes a really big issue. And then all of a sudden they're like, oh, how do I have that conversation now to revert back on a year worth of ignorance and
exactly
whatever else. So like, when Beck and I got together, I was like, we're lay it all out right now.
Yep.
What do we want? What are we getting out of this?
We're on the same boat or not?
We're on the same boat. You want kids. I want kids.
Boom.
I'd started trying with my ex.
Yep.
Nothing happened.
Yep.
And then, first go.
Bang.
With Beck. So it was like, all right, well, that's a blessing in disguise. Like, that wasn't meant to be. This happened. Right.
Life's great.
All in. Like, we're both 31 years old. The clock's ticking kind of thing. And it was like...
Scary, that biological clock, hey?
Yeah, it is.
It's fucking scary. It's like something I never really thought about. And then Amy's brought it up. I'm like, it's not a thing, man. And then you look into it, you're like, you've got my attention.
Yeah, because... And like, you see the amount of people that have to do fertility treatment.
Definitely.
Guys, girls, doesn't matter.
Yeah, it's wild. You spend all these years trying not to get pregnant, and then you're like...
and then you're like, oh no!
I wasted all these money on...
And it's like, what do you mean I can't get pregnant?
Yeah.
It's like, I will just avoid it. And then it's like, oh, now that you try, you can't. And that's when things get stressful.
Yeah.
I even said to Beck yesterday, I was like, I don't know what I'd read or seen, but I said, I'm so grateful we never had to go to a fertility clinic and go, hey, all right, we'll test your sperm and see how your swimmers are. Or, oh, Beck's got problems with the ovaries and she can't do this. Because like friends of ours have had to go through things where they go, you guys aren't having kids.
Yep.
And you go, like imagine that being yourself.
Oh, mate.
How you would be. Because you have this idea of what your life is going to look like. You're going to get married, then you're going to have kids, and you'll be a dad, and you get to do all this stuff. And then for someone to go, not you.
Not for you,
What?
Just kick me one
You're
down,
joking,
mate. Yeah.
So
it almost doesn't,
it's pretty real, and like it kind of doesn't get talked about.
Oh, it's a conversation that should be spoken about, because it's so much more common than people realize. People think it's like 1 in every 100, 200,000 people, but I know multiple people who are in that boat, and I'm like, I don't know what that's like, but I'd love you guys to talk, and you should talk about it, because if you bottle that up,
it's important, because lots of people are going through it, and all it takes is one person to have a conversation about it, and the other people go, oh, hey, I'm going through that too. And like that stuff, seeing how much other people struggle makes me also go, I get to do stuff with my kid.
Yep.
Some people don't get to have kids, so like
I don't have to.
I get to go home.
Yep.
To a child that's happy and healthy, and I get to train at 4:30 in the morning so that I get to go home. Like, it's not, oh, I have to go home. It's like, oh no, I get to go home and see a healthy family. We're not, we're not split up. Some people have kids in separate houses, and it's like, oh, you're back and forth and whatever else. So like, you definitely have to like check in sometimes and be like, oh no, I get to do this stuff.
Yeah.
Not, oh, I'm missing out on that. No, I get to stay home and raise a child. Like, there's not many better jobs and things in the world to do than mold a human.
Oh yeah. I got one last question for you.
Yeah.
What's your definition of being a good man?
Being a good man, honest up front, being a good communicator, and not bottling up. I guess not bottling up feelings, like doing all the things that a lot of guys aren't willing to do, like say no, tell people you've got a problem.
Yep.
If you're, struggling, whatever else. And I think it's a respect for other people as well. It's like, and probably especially women, it's like there's a lot of people that don't. So it's like, I'm going to be one of the ones that do.
Yep.
And
lead by example.
Lead by example. And I guess I'm in probably a leadership role, and so it's like that transfers into life. Is like you just be a leader, and it's like, all right, how are other men seeing what I do as a dad and as a husband, and are they looking at that going, oh, or are they going, oh fuck
yeah,
Lou might be onto something here,
champion. Yeah.
And so like I see that in other parents and how they hold and how they speak about their wives and how they not put them up on a pedestal, but there's a mutual respect, like. And so it's like, be that person that respects their partner and be that person that doesn't speak negatively about them. We might fight. No one else needs to know that.
Yeah.
I'm never going out being like, oh, Beck's being a mole today.
Yeah.
You know, because she's not. She's great.
Yeah.
And she's a mum and she went through all that shit. So how I would not be.
Yeah, well, we don't even know what that's like. Yeah.
No, right. So it's just having that respect for your partner and your wife, and it might be your sister and your mum and all the things that we don't get to be. It's like, respect that. But then like, and then also lift other blokes up. Like I see the stuff that you do with like the amount of men and the amount of guys that you have conversation with and lift up. And it's like, that's incredible.
Yeah. We all need to be championing each other. It's this whole tall poppy syndrome.
That's right. Everyone thinks they know their stuff, and it's like, it's okay to not know, and it's also okay to go and find help and talk to someone who might know more than you do. Yeah,
like I'll be taking a bucket load from this. It's like I'm sitting here going, holy shit, never thought about that. That's a great way to look at things. And I'm so fortunate I get to speak to people like yourself, and often you do take it for good. Like we literally see each other every day.
Yeah,
every day.
And we would never have this conversation if we didn't sit down for an hour.
And life's hard, but it's like I'm grateful that we made the time to do this, and I know a lot of people will get value from this. Just quickly as well, I know you've got a program as well.
Yep.
Firstly, where can people find you on socials and all of that sort of stuff? And two, your philosophy, sort of training philosophy, probably holistic approach.
Yeah. So my Instagram is at Coach Lou, not underscore first. I've got a training program that is just really simple stuff for people to just be able to do in a gym. So I kind of wrote it when I left Snap of like, this is how I would be training you if we were doing one-on-one.
Yep.
And you just get to do it by yourself.
Yep.
Really simple. It's 6 days a week. There's strength, there's bodybuilding, there's bits of conditioning, variations of stuff that I've done in the past, but very much like, if we were doing a one-on-one session, this is how I'm training you.
Yep.
And that's just called ISF training. I run it through Sugar Wad.
So how, if they were to, do they need to contact you?
Message me and I can send all the details through, and it's a matter of logging into the app, send through payment details and
done.
You're
simple.
on $30 a month. Nice and simple. Oh. And I sort of say to people like, pick and choose and do as much or as little as you like. If you do all of it, there's a fair bit of work there.
Yep.
If you do 2 bits in a day, that might take you half an hour, and you might be like, that's all I've got time for is to do some bench and some accessories.
Yep.
Sweet.
It's all about the bench.
Well, like if you're not doing arms.
Do you even train?
So it's just a product that's there. It doesn't necessarily, like I said, doesn't necessarily get plugged a lot, but it is there, and it's just like wanting to help people that want to train but don't necessarily have something to follow.
Yep.
It can be time efficient. You know, I guess it bases around my training. Like I'm not going to be in the gym forever, so I'm not going to program for people to be in the gym forever. And it's just super simple stuff that if you've got access to a 24/7 gym, you can
good to go.
get in and do, and you can do some parts and you can not do other parts, and
sick.
Like
get on it. All the links and everything like that are going to be in the show notes for whichever platform you're watching on. Mate, thank you so much for coming on. It's been unreal.
Thanks for having me.
Cheers.